Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Savannah and I'm sending you so much love. Today we're going to begin the front layered cover of our no-sew journal that we are going to be using for our journaling course using the Daria kit. So if you want to see how I put together this beautiful cover, then stick around and watch, and then also keep watching till the end because that's where I'm going to talk more about the journaling course and when it's going to begin. So if you like this, please like, subscribe, and share. Let's get into it. Hi everybody, welcome back. So right now we are going to start working on the cover. So in the first video we made the letter, the envelope, and decorated it with some fabric and clouds, and I just think it turned out so cute. And then the little seagulls. So now we're going to work on the cover. So what I did is I have one of these folders, and this is a Smeed brand, but they have Amazon basic ones, but it's just with this little attachment here. So I have found these at the thrift store in different colors. I got them really inexpensive. So this is what I'm using for the part of the topper. So I've already cut it down here, and this is, let's see here, 5.5 by almost 8. So it's technically 7 7/8. Okay. This is just a folder. So not like this. It was just a solid one that I'd gotten, but it's just a regular folder. You can get these at the Dollar Tree. That's all that was. And I just used this one because of the blue color, and that's what I wanted. I cut this to 6.5 by 9.5. And then I just have, this came out of an old piece of paper folder. So any kind of old paper you have, cardstock, it could be a paper bag, it could be anything. So that's what I have for here. So we're going to be doing front and back covers, very similar. Okay, so what I want to do, let me move this part out of the way. So we have our 3 pieces. Oh, this piece measures, and I think I'm going to end up tearing this down some, but this is 9 by 6 1/8. Okay, like it's got some torn bits, and we're going to go in and tear it some more. We're going to rough all of this up. So what I'm wanting to do is create a cover. Like I said, this is going to get torn down some more. And I want to attach this to where it opens like this, so that when you open the front part here, we're going to make a little signature with some papers. We're going to put them in here. So we're going to have a little book here. And that's why I wanted to have that this way. And I thought it would be fun if it opened up in this direction. Okay, so let's first things first is we need to grunge this up. And this is really thick, this one. So I am just going to come in here and not be nice at all. Because this is the kind of, this is how I like to age things, is just not so much by darkening them. You really can't go wrong. But oh, see, I'm loving that. Getting some of these bits folded over. Okay, so that's definitely looking a little better. I'm just going to scruff it up a lot. So then the way we're going to be attaching this is with fabric. So then I want to come around with this piece. Now this piece is a lot more brittle And I am just going to, again, go in, and you're going to see how brittle this piece is. And I think that's good. Some of it's going to fall off. But this piece is definitely more brittle. So I got to be kind of careful that I don't destroy the whole thing. But see, as we're looking at that, look at that. Oh, that's looking really cute. And we can have some bits that kind of try to fold over. And then we're going to do the same thing here. I just don't want it to look pristine and new, because we want to create these layers of wear. And that is looking really nice. But I'm really liking the way that's looking. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to first glue this one down to this. I'm going to use the Beacon 3-in-1. And see, some of it broke off. I'm totally okay with that. I'm just going to run this around the middle. I'm not going to the edge at all. And then we're just going to glue it down like that. And I might come in with my antique linen on this blue one a little bit, on some of the white, but we'll see. Okay, so the next, we need to hinge this to this piece. And to do that, I'm going to just use some fabric. Okay, so I have this pretty trim here that is going to work great. So the way we want to do this, so we want to line it up. Your trim piece needs to be the length of your top piece, of your shortest piece. If you go higher or longer, it won't flip. So you got to keep it the length of your shortest piece. So I'm going to just trim that. And I'm going to just use a little bit of the Fabri-Tac. The Beacon would work. We can just use the Beacon. I just don't want to put too much, the 3-in-1. So we're just going to go right here on this edge, because we are going to end up sewing this. So I'm just going to use my finger to spread this out. And then I don't want to cover up all of the metal piece, the hardware. I want to leave some of that showing, just a little bit. Oh, that is so pretty. Let's see, it's a little bit long, so I'm just going to trim it down. Okay. Then we're going to center it on there. So I'm not putting it all the way over. I'm leaving it centered. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on the back side, and we're going to glue this down. And you want to have it like this so you know where your measurements are. And it's important to kind of go in and then thin this down. One, it'll grab the fabric better, but that's also will prevent it from like bleeding through the fabric. And there we have it. And I'm going to pull it back. You want to leave a little bit of a gap. Right, so you can see here I have a gap left. So that when we make the booklet, it's going to have some room to fill up. Okay. But that's secured for now, and that it'll give that glue some time to dry. So now we need to gather some papers. Let's see, I think these might just be good enough. We've got 2 blue, 2 light blue, and 2 green. I think that's gonna be good, because it's just gonna be a small little journal. So what we're gonna do then, and there's some solid colored pages in the book, in the kit. So if you wanted, you could use, or some background pages, not solid color, but background pages, you could use those in here too. So we're gonna just center that there. And I'm going to, with my friction pen, I'm gonna just mark this on each side of the metal. Because this I can get rid of with heat if it doesn't erase really well. You know, sometimes the erasable pens don't erase as well on certain types of paper. So I know that my holes need to be in the middle there. And then we're going to measure this way. We're going to line that right up and put a mark. So I know I need it to be to the side of that and the side of this. And you're going to just have to measure this because your folder might be different widths. Now, if you don't have a folder like this, it's so easy. It's going to be very simple for you. All you're going to do is put 2 holes on your front cover, and you're going to just tie it up with string or ribbon. Okay, so even if you don't have something like this, I have it. I think it's neat with the hardware on it, so I wanted to use this. So then I am going to take my hole punch, and I just am going to use my little single one here to make it easy. And then I am going to just go to the side of that hole, that line, and then the side of that. And since we might be taking these in and out, let's make some hole reinforcers, and they're so easy to make. Okay, so to make hole reinforcers, they're so easy, and that way you can make them to match any project. What I'm gonna do is, not that paper, I wanna do brown paper or tan paper or like a cream. I think that'll be really pretty. So this is like just a beige cardstock. So what you do, you need, you need your hole punch that you use to punch your holes, and then you need another circle punch that's slightly bigger, or it can be quite a bit bigger. So this particular one is like a 1/2 inch. So what you're gonna do is, let's see, we have 6 pages and 2 holes on each page, so we need 12 bar in. You can do it different ways. So you can punch out the 1/2 inch one first, and then go in. That's probably pretty easy. And then you just estimate by looking around the center. And there you have your hole reinforcer. Okay, so I have all the hole reinforcers on, and they look so cute. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it on here, and I'm gonna just see. So at 3/4 of an inch, I'm gonna do my score line. And that way it's not gonna interfere with the hole reinforcers. And it will fold over nicely. So I'm just gonna score all of these at 3/4 of an inch. All right, so let's put these in now. Colors that are in our journal, in our kit. So pretty. Oh my goodness, I love this so much. And then we're gonna open these up, put them in. Like I said, if you don't have this type of folder, just use cardstock, cover it, and then you can do it with string. And we have our cute little journal. And we're gonna decorate this. We might even do like some pockets in here too. So we'll see how we go along. Okay, so this is the base of our front cover done. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you how to piece the journal together even more. So let me move this stuff aside here. So what we're doing is we want layers upon layers in interest. So this, I just took some little beads that I had here and a button. I got a seashell and 2 wood beads, and then a blue button and a blue pony heart bead. And I just thought they looked really cute together. And I just used embroidery floss to attach them. So it's pretty self-explanatory. And then I happen to have this little eye hook that I attached it to so I can just click it on. So I just thought that looked so pretty with the journal. We have our envelope that we've already done. Now what you want to do is you want to continue to create layers with fabric with the paper base we already have. So what you want to do is get, I would say, 2 patterns and 2 neutrals. So it can be any kind of pattern that you have. We'll go with this because this is an ocean themed, but it's more of a cottage, a beach cottage themed journal. So I have this from some embroidery sample books and I cut it down to this size. So this is like a little thicker kind of canvas, but like I said, any cotton fabric will work. And then I use the pinking shears around it to help keep it from fraying since this is an upholstery fabric. And it's still gonna fray somewhat. So this is gonna be for the front cover. So we are going to be putting that there. Okay, then what I thought, especially on the cover, to make this kind of special and unique, is I thought that we would be using like straight pens and safety pens and bulb pens. And I want to treat this almost like, what do they call it? The punch boards or the pin cushion boards, you know? So I wanted to put this fabric here. So we're gonna go a pattern fabric. Oh, let me just go here. This one's gonna go underneath because I want it to create layers also. So we're gonna have this one here. And then what we'll be able to do, because we're gonna just glue or sew around on the outside, and we're gonna leave the inside not stuck down. And what that will enable us to do is, even when it's stuck down, and these aren't the sharpest ones here, but we'll be able to go in and pin things to the fabric. And when we get into decorating it even more, you'll see that. So I made this a little bit bigger than this piece here, so that when it is turned over, we're gonna see a little bit poking out the top and a little bit poking out the bottom, and then a little bit on the side. So once we glue that in, we'll get it all lined up, and then you'll see a little bit coming out from all around it. And this is building on the layers. And then that's the same thing with this piece. So we're only going to glue it down here, and we left a big enough spine on this cover that we're going to be able to embellish this and add things to it. because we have about 1/2 inch in that spine that will allow this to build up without being too bulky. So we're going to have this piece here, this piece here, this piece here. So you can see we've got all these layers that are developing and just drawing interest to this journal. And then to cover up this back side, we're going to use this. So like I said, you're going to do a pattern, a solid, and then a pattern. So it's not too busy in coordinating colors. And then we have our blue here and the brown. And then this is just actually drop cloth. So I love using drop cloth. It's per yard of fabric, it's a very inexpensive fabric. You definitely want to wash it first, otherwise it's really, really stiff. So then we're going to attach this to where we have all of this sticking out. So all of this together is our front cover. And there is lots of layers and interest. It's not too busy, but there's lots of interest drawing you through and wanting you to open it up and flip it up. And then we've got our little bead dangle that we can attach here. And then I've got this button. And one thing to note about your buttons is always flip your buttons over. Like if I just saw this side of the button, actually it does kind of go, but that's not what I want. But I flip it over and it's like mother of pearl. So I thought that would be really cute as an embellishment there. And then once this is all put together, our tie, I just have this really pretty doily, and and I still have to work on the tie portion. I need to adjust it to size. But this is going to be held on by a safety pin, and this is going to basically wrap around the entire journal. And then this is just going to tuck in the letter. We'll just tuck in. So you'll have even more layers that are on here. And then the Daria nameplate we're going to attach to the band here as well, but that will come in a little bit later. I just wanted to give you an idea. So let's go ahead and start attaching these things. It's all very simple. I've got just a needle threaded here with a neutral string, just a white or cream. And I'm just going to put my little knot in it. So before I sew this stuff down, I want to do a certain amount of embellishments. And those are kind of big holes, so I kind of need to create somewhat of a big knot. And then you always want to, and that's not a big enough knot, test it. And sometimes the buttonholes are really big, so once you just start sewing it, it will work. So I'm going to just attach this here because I just think that is so fitting. I'm going to come up from the bottom. And that knot is big enough where it's not coming through the fabric. Make sure I have that lined up where I want it. And just sew it on. I think it really is worth it. Sorry, I'm struggling here finding the hole. I think that it really is worth it to sew your buttons on when you can. Or if they have thread in them already, then you can glue them on. Okay, so let's do one more. So I'm just going to go through it 3 times to make sure that's nice and thick and that it can be seen. And then on the back side, you just are going to kind of weave through one of your loops on the back and through the fabric, pull it out, and then take your needle and go back through the hole, and that creates your knot. And I like to do that just a couple times. just to make sure it's really good on there. Which this, since it's going to be secured down, you don't have to worry too much about it. And my scissors. Okay. And I have a pin cushion off to the side here where I just put my needle in right away so it doesn't end up on your foot. So like I said, there's going to be more stuff that, like, because this is going to just be resting on top of this. And we're probably going to put it this way when we put it in so that we have the fabric coming out that way. And you can see all the layers, but it's not going to be stuck down to it. So now I'm going to take a little bit of my, you can do Fabri-Tac, you can do Beacon 3-in-1, you can do art glitter glue. I'm just going to use my Fabri-Tac, and I am going to put it on the fabric just on the edge, and I'm just going to do a really small amount, and it will secure it, but I don't want too much of it to bleed through. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine with this. So I'm just going to smear it with my finger, and that will help it from bleeding through also. So we just need enough to kind of hold it in place until we go to the sewing machine. So now the main thing is that when you go to the sewing machine, when you have this many layers, you've got to think ahead just a little bit about when to sew what in at what point. So because we're going to be putting this one here, I'm going to also glue this one to the back, and then I am going to just sew here around the edge, and that one's going to adhere this piece. So we're going to glue it in, but then when we go and sew, it's going to attach this piece as well. And I'm going to kind of tuck that in underneath there just a little bit. You can kind of pull that up and get that tucked in, and then that way it's nice and flush and has a nice finished edge to it. And then I'm going to flip it over to make sure it's lined up from the front the way I want to see it. So I'm going to move that one out of the way. I want to just pull it out here just a little bit more. And there we have it, where we can see hints of that. So that's in a good spot, and it's kind of being held by the by being tucked under also. So then we're going to just take the Fabri-Tac again, and we're going to just do, oh, and I just moved it, but that's okay. So we're just going to do a small, come on, a small amount around the edge here, because we want it left open in the middle. Okay, and I'm going to just run my finger. And when you do a small amount, you kind of have to move fast, because it will definitely start to dry a little bit quicker. So we just want to tuck that back in there. Flip it over to make sure we can see it on all the sides, and we can. And then if you have a brayer, I just think the brayer works the best to secure things in place. And then I'm going to just take my bone folder and just tuck those little strands in there, and see how nice and clean that looks. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're gonna sew around. Because we have this here, we want to make sure we don't attach, we don't want to sew into this, okay? So a good way to figure that out is if you take just a colored piece of thread, and we can tie this around it. So we make sure we don't get too close. And we'll always, even if we sew over the thread a little bit, it'll be okay. So we're gonna just put this in where we know we can't get too close to it, and we're gonna just check, right? So I know by measuring it that way, that as long as I stay on the inside, which we're going to, we will be okay, because we're gonna sew from the top down, because we want to make sure that we get this lined up evenly. So that's a way you can kind of check if where you need to sew something. Okay, so I'm going to go to the sewing machine, and I am going to just sew around this, and then I'll be back. Okay, so this is now sewn in, and because we have the zigzag from our scissors so that it doesn't, our pinking shears, I went ahead and did a zigzag stitch, and I think that looks really cute. And actually, when you look at it from the back side, you can hardly, because it matches so well, you can hardly even see it. But we have it loose here, and we also have it loose here on the edges, which is something that's you kind of want when you are layering stuff. You don't want it just to be all the way stuck down so that there's no movement. So when we look, we have really pretty movement there. And then I left the strings a little bit long, not super long right there. Okay, so now we have our first two fabrics in place. And then, like I said, we can put straight pins, we can straight pin stuff in. It's just, I thought it would be a really fun way of making the covers and a way of adding other things to it. So then next we have this one, and we're gonna just do the exact same thing. We are going to attach it. But first I have these holes here from where it was in the fabric sample book. And so let's pull out some of our buttons and see if there's any buttons that we can put there to cover that up. That's kind of a fun one. Oh, and you sew through like that way. That's very interesting how that is sewn in. We have these, which I don't think that one could possibly go there. And then we have something like that. Let's see. We also have this one here, but I think that's going to stick up a lot, so I don't want to do that one. So what you want to do is you just want to go through your little buttons and take a look. I have another one of those pearl ones, and I still have a hole here, and we'll end up putting something on there later. But right now, before I glue this down, if there's something I want to sew to it, I want to do that first. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I have this trim, and it lines up really well with where those holes are. And then I picked 3 buttons that we're gonna attach to the trim, or attach to all the way through the fabric will work. They're different colors, they're almost the same size, and I really like that. It just adds a variety. And then when we flip this over, you're going to see part of that button sticking through and then part of the trim, and we'll cut this off once it's attached. So to attach it, I'm going to use a blue thread. And this is like thread. It might be considered embroidery floss, but not quite that thick. So I'm just going to sew this on just like I did the last one with the blue thread that you'll see a little bit, because I think that will go fine with all those colors. So I'm going to attach the buttons to the fabric, and then by attaching it through the trim and the fabric, that is going to be enough to hold that fabric in place. We won't need to sew anymore. We don't need to sew the trim onto the fabric. Okay, so I have my needle threaded, and I want to just show you. So I have my trim lined up, and I know that these buttons are going right in the middle of this pattern, and we're just leaving one of those little patterns in between. So what we can do to make this easier as we're sewing it on, because we're not going to have these buttons on, is we can just take a pin, and just pin this into place. And we'll just take 2 pins, and then that way it's lined up right where we want it, and we don't have to worry about holding it on and fidgeting with that part of it. Okay, so I can lift this up now, hold the button in place, and then I can just attach these buttons very quickly and simply. And like I said, I think when it has the thread going through the buttonhole, it looks better, because otherwise it just kind of doesn't make sense that it's a button being held on there. And since the back of this is going to be stuck down and you're not going to see it, I'm not going to worry about what it looks like from behind. So I'm just going to grab my next button and I don't want it to pucker, but I'm just going to put the button in place and pull. But like I said, make sure you're not pulling it too tight on the first kind of go rounds. And I can take this first pin out so that it's not in my way. Oops. And it's generally better if you don't have anything else around. So again, make sure you're not pulling that too tight. Once you've gone through each hole once, then you usually can start to pull a little bit tighter. But we just don't want it to be buckled. And then just make sure you're holding that right where you want it to be. To keep it in place. And then you just attach it. Okay, so that is attached, and I think it is so cute. And I'm gonna just trim off the extra here on the edges. And look at that. It just, I don't know, paper and lace and buttons together, it looks so good. It makes me so happy. And I just, those holes aren't big enough. I wish I had some bigger button hole with big holes in it that I could put something right there. That would be so cute. But I do have an idea of what we're gonna do there now. Okay. So next we need to attach this and then attach our back. And so like the first part, we're going to do this the same way. And eventually all these little bits and strings won't be attached. So we're going to glue this down, making sure we like the layout of it. And I think I can still see it below a little bit, but now I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. That is so cute. So we're going to go around on the sides. And on this one, I don't know if we're gonna sew this now that the button is here. Actually, we are. We're still gonna sew this on, but we're gonna just use a straight stitch instead of a zigzag. So let's glue this down. So I'm gonna take my Fabri-Tac and just do a small amount around the outside edge. And it doesn't matter if you don't get all of it. And I'm not going all the way to the edge. I'm leaving a little bit of space, like I said before. And this is a thicker fabric, so I'm not worried about smearing it around. So before I press really hard, I just want to make sure, yes, I like that. So then I'm going to take the brayer and just bray that down. Oh, that is so cute. Okay. Yes, we can see all these layers we have, and then we just have a hint of the buttons. You can kind of see that they're there, but you don't see all of it. Oh, so cute. And then on the back here, we're going to do the same thing. So we are going to put the glue. Now this, because it does stick over, we can get a little closer to the edge, but again, it's okay if we're not completely at the edge, but we do want to get a little bit closer on this one because there is so much that's sticking out that it's okay to do that, if that makes sense. But again, we're going to take this to the sewing machine also. Okay. So this one, you kind of gotta turn it over, move a little quicker. Get it lined up really good with where you want it. And I think that looks good. Smooth it out, and then we can just go along and smush that down really well, because we just want to, we're worried about it holding until we get to the sewing machine. Okay, so this pretty much completes what we're going to do in today's video. In the next video, we're going to be actually making the pages of the journal and putting them in and creating the back cover. There's still quite a bit more embellishing that we're going to do to the front of this cover, but we're going to be doing that in a couple of videos. So I just want to tell you about the journal course that's coming up. I think my goal is to start it on August 2nd, which is a Saturday, because it's a 30-day journaling course about mindfulness and being in the present moment. And so if we start on Saturday, August 2nd, then that'll take us through August 31st. That'll give us the 30 days. So I really hope that you'll join me here on my YouTube channel for this journaling course. And if you can't start on that day, it's not a big deal, because it's going to be here living on YouTube. So you can start it whenever you want. But I'm really looking forward to doing this along with everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. I hope that you're going to join in with me. If you haven't purchased this kit yet, it's linked below. It's available on my Ko-fi shop, and there is definitely some bits and pieces that are going to be tied in with the journaling course, but if you can always do the journaling course in any journal, but I think that you'll find it works really well with the kit. So my prayer for everyone watching this video today, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I just pray that as we come upon this weekend, that you all find time to create, find joy, and find peace and rest. Whether you're working through the weekend or not, I just pray that this weekend is a blessing to you, your family, and your mind and spirit. Amen. Remember, you are loved and you are cherished. Until next time, love always, Savannah.